This is time for anybody to say whatever they'd like on the committee.
I think this is Carol Laxton. I've been meeting for 12 years, and I think we've seen good fits and starts, and unless we really have something to work on, I don't think that it's worth our time to have a meeting. But if we really have work that we can come together on and move forward, then I would fully support continuing to meet, whether it's monthly or bi-monthly.
Anybody can talk about it, go ahead. Then.
This is Doug Russell. The chief judge of the district and the court administrator have met concerning judicial needs and courthouse needs. We've been meeting with judges of all levels in the district, and we're going to be contacting members of the board and the county attorney and others to discuss matters. And I expect in the fairly near future, the chief judge will request an opportunity to address the board at one of their regular meetings on the agenda to make a presentation of the judicial branch's proposals and requests concerning where we should be headed next. With that in mind, I do think it would be useful for the committee to meet on a regular basis. How often that will be, I'm sure the board will decide. But hopefully the discussions will continue and will, as a group, with a lot of experience and a lot of discussion behind us, continue to address the needs that we have and find a proper solution for them.
Stratton, I agree with the judge. We've spent a lot of time identifying problems, and we have come up with solutions for some of them that were implemented, and other solutions that could be implemented and that were expected to be implemented if we got more space and more resources. And the problems are still there, the issues are still there. They're not going to go away just because the proposed solution was abandoned, as it were, or voted down, as it were. So I think that we need to continue looking for optimal ways of dealing with the problems that we have.
Jerry Allen, I guess I would like to say mean, like I said too, it's like quite a few things that come out of this committee. We had the informal bond review hearings, we had, I think drug court was probably started to talk about this, we had a lot of alternatives that have come out of this committee that I'm not sure we would have had we not had a place to be discussing this on a regular basis. So I don't want people to think that just because we didn't get the bond issue passed, that this committee has not been extremely successful in their ways over the last decade. So, I think that's why we should continue to, it's good to have citizen input and, what's going on too, as well as all the different kind of, different groups that are interested, you know, whether it's MECA, whether it's, Department of Correctional Services in place to actually come in and be expected to talk about what the issues are.
Doug Russell, I'd like to add what Dan said. It is important not just for the stakeholders to be talking, but for the public to have an opportunity to listen and also to speak. And I think that's another reason the committee should continue meetings so the public can give us their input and their views. So I think that's a good thing. It lends to the transparency of the process, I think.
Doug, I had a question for you. You said the Chief Justice would like to come and talk to the board. Did you have a timeline on that, or?
The chief judge of the district, not the chief
I'm sorry.
justice of the state.
Of the district?
I think probably within the month. I think he's trying to arrange some meetings. We've already had meetings among the judges on different levels. I think he wants to talk to people individually, and I would guess within a month that we have some time on the board agenda.
Obviously, that can be arranged on TV and Thursday. We just won't have a full board in place for a couple of weeks. Flood has caused some, sorry about that, I thought that was on Saturday. I'm flood mode, which that's always on. So we just need to work out with Andy, it'd be best if when we're all available, so we'll figure that timeline out.
I'll pass that along.
And it seems like, I mean, there's some people who aren't here who are part of this committee, and obviously we're not hearing from them. Drew is no longer a student government member and had requested permission to stay on, but not representing student government. And I think we all thought that was a great idea. I guess if we're going to continue, we should survey the members who are currently on here and see if they wish to continue to serve. And they may or may not. And then we can always appoint different members. I know that the committee had been kind of intended to stay at a manageable level, so that meetings could get some meaningful input, but, there's 1, 2, 3, 4. I think there's 4 members who aren't here, and so they may or may not wish to continue to serve. I mean, I heard from the members that are here.
I would just say that I actually will be, I have an internship in the fall, so this probably will be my last meeting then if we're not going to meet again this summer. But I talked to a lot of students, especially on student government, and I can pretty much assure you that they're interested in this committee, and that there's issues, especially with the police force, that they're interested in. So I would absolutely recommend that this committee continues.
A couple of, I guess, housekeeping things. The clerk of courts has had storage in the garage behind the courthouse, and it's been deemed that that's no longer a good idea, so we're in the process of rearranging the storage, and so that will begin to inconvenience them more because it'll be farther away from them. But that building is, we were told by the clerk of court administrator that was not safe, and we concurred with that. So that's housekeeping number 1. And number 2, the board has as part of our strategic plan, it's a 5-year capital plan, basically a capital improvement plan. We're in the process of updating that. Without any other decision, we're going to probably plug in there critical changes in the jail and courthouse that would be required in those 5 years to stay in those buildings. That doesn't mean that would be the final decision, it's just we have to put a date and price tag to all of those. It's fairly substantial. You know about the locking systems, 1.6 million. There's a generator there that's at the end of its lifespan, and that's about 600,000. It's a backup generator. There's roof-ish, buildings need new roofs, water, sewer, hardscape there. There's needs in the courthouse that Janet's been making a list of that we're going to stay there in its current state, minimum things that would need to be done. And so that's probably going to get plugged in as we work on our space needs strategic plan for the next 5 years. That doesn't mean the board necessarily has agreed to do it. It's just a placeholder and a price tag in a year. So those two things are kind of working parallel. We worked on it a little bit today, but obviously we didn't have enough time to hammer out everything. So on this item, it's basically, you can say anything you want about critical needs of law enforcement or court services.
Well, I think that list is important. We are in a situation where even if we choose to identify whatever we eventually identify and put back on a ballot at some point, we're looking several years down the road before we'd likely see any kind of action. By the time you get it on the ballot, all of that process at the time of construction, all of that, you're still going to be 3-4 years out, probably more. So I think it's important to fact find what our critical needs are in the interim, that interim period that the next, I would say from now, the next 3-4 years. It's been identified with the courthouse. We have the boilers, the ADA, the secure entranceway, of course storage, the issue of moisture, leaking of steps. I mean, these are fairly critical needs, I would think, that need to be addressed. Jail, as Janelle pointed out, the locking system, control center, and then, of course, the windows, the equipment, the piping. You talk about the roof, on my list, the generator. And then, so identifying those critical needs, I think, are really important because as this group regroups, includes representatives of those who chose a different avenue, we will hear what those avenues are. But certainly over the next 3 or 4 years, we've got some pretty critical needs that need to be addressed, and then coming up with dollars for those are going to be whole other avenues to try to take a look at. We obviously got news from our legislature and the governor that they're interested in cutting our budget, or at least our ability to generate revenue. That is going to throw a whole new wrench in our budget process, and so that's going to make things even more difficult. So what we need from you folks, particularly at those levels, are what are the immediate needs.
That said, so many needs of the system, right? I can't see putting a lot of money into the jail, as far as I'm concerned. Minimum security facility, transport more people. I see room for more alternatives. You've done a good job of doing what you can in the system. It's going to be interesting to see the chief justice, the nation's egg. No matter what we do, it's going to take some time. I talked to the GSA. They are at least a month and a half out on giving us a big proposal. I'll decide from there if it's something we want to get in space there.
That brings up a good point, and this is also from perspective from Sheriff Kravick, Attorney Linus, and others, and that is
that I just want to make everyone aware of, I was kind of looking at my notes from the meeting we had. Major remodels of the jail, Lonnie told us, would likely result in the jail inspector reducing our overall capacity. And because we're kind of grandfathered in the way
I use the
we're.
word possible, I didn't
Possible.
say likely.
Okay, so,
We just don't know until it could be sprung upon us.
so here's the list, we were going off of memory and I've now found it in my scribbles here. Stabilizing the jail building is evidence room, the locking and door system, okay? Generator, windows, painting walls, flooring, water, sewer, roof, new facilities and toilets and whatnot that are more ability to withstand the jail. And critical needs in the courthouse, and this is just to use it the way it is. It doesn't gain us any new space. Boilers, ongoing moisture problem, and part of that is just the way the building was designed. Secure entrance, ADA, we can't, we don't have the ability to have people with disabilities serve in the jury the way the same people, other people do. We have a critical shortness of courtrooms, we have a critical shortness of space for the county attorney. I think the clerk would probably say they have a critical shortness, but storage, sound, parking issues, jury boxes, and I have something written down, steps 3 foot down, I'm not sure what I meant.
That's to the third of the county attorney's.
Oh, to the county attorney, okay. And then I have down the retaining wall and sidewalk issue that we were just delaying to decide whether that retaining wall would still be there. So that's what I have on critical needs that we need to begin to get funded if we remain in those buildings for their current use. And that does not gain us any new space at all. So that, that's what we had brainstormed the last meeting we had on this. Just so you know, the boilers are already funded, so you will have heat this winter. Rest of that, we don't. I can't promise you.
Yeah, we are replacing that one boiler, right?
And we're replacing them all. I think we're getting rid of 3 and going to 2, and it'll be way more energy efficient. So that's the summary of the list that we have that will need to go into those buildings in the next 3 to 5 years, depending.
So, yeah, so it'd be nice to kind of like, if we are looking at regrouping in September, to have kind of a shore of what those numbers are, and then to start to prioritize. Board of Supervisors, we did set aside, I think, somewhere in the neighborhood of 2.8 million.
That's my money put into this.
Right, I mean, we don't have a lot of money sitting around here. So, you know, without the, without some significant windfall of dollars, which again, the legislature and the governor just chose to actually go the opposite direction as far as our ability to tax. I mean, so if you only had $2.8 million, what would you do? And that's the kind of scenario that is possible. That's probably about it. And it looks like a lot of it's just taken away. That list was pretty extensive. That's where we are.
Any other comments on critical needs? This committee, kind of a timeline? The board obviously can't wait until September to continue to move forward on our space needs issues. We will be creating what is basically a 5-year plan to meet critical needs. That doesn't mean we have agreed to do it in whatever year, it's just that we need to create that as part of our budgeting process, that we understand what needs will come due in what year. That is not new building. That is just repairing what we have. So we will probably this summer, we will be plugging that into the 5-year, a kind of a multi-year plan. It wasn't quite 5 years last time. Multi-year plan that we're just rewriting right now. So that will be going on even without CJCC because at a minimum, if we're staying in those buildings, these type of things will have to be done in coming years. Any other comments from the committee on this item? All right, then we're going to move on to committee reports. Alternatives and Treatment Subcommittee.
I had indicated that Brooke reported the numbers from the substance abuse evaluations that we did over the last month, so we should have all gotten those. We haven't met yet, Jordan's out of town, so I think we'll probably need to look at the disproportionate minority numbers and see what kind of programs are out there or what kind of things are available and present those, but that's probably we're looking at September.
Janet, can I update on that? Oh,
Jessica,
Jessica,
you wanna come up?
do I need to come up? Jessica, back over to the alternatives. I actually met with, there's so many disproportionate minority committees, and there's so much stuff that's happening in this community already to address that. And so I attended one of the meetings that had multiple stakeholders from a variety of schools, the juvenile court officers, city, Iowa City, Iowa City law enforcement, and some providers and people from the neighborhood center. So a variety of people were meeting, and in the, I think it was either late summer or early, it must be late summer, there's a group of them going to something, a conference in Georgetown on disproportionate minority contact, and then the idea was that they were going to come back, and at that point hold a community-wide forum in Johnson County to discuss what they learned there, to discuss what needs to be done in Johnson County. So at one of the meetings, Janelle said, Iowa City was wanting the county to host having a community-wide discussion on this topic, and it sounds like that's already being planned. I don't know exactly who's spearheading it. I know Latasha with social services is involved in that. I think she's one of them that's going to Georgetown. And so when they come back, the plan is to already have that community-wide conversation. So I think that that's happening. There's a need for us to do something as well. But we're just, I'm just going to partner with them.
Any questions for Jessica? Comments? Thank you. Janet, you have anything else? All right, Public Information Outreach Subcommittee, Jim's not here. Jim's. Facilities Subcommittee.
Just what I said earlier, Virginia State, things are going to share with the near future. That's at least 2 months out. Getting some together to have this considered.
Janet, we did not go over and look at social security space. Do you want to?
I didn't look at it, we exchanged. some
Oh, you know what
emails.
size it is then, right?
Right, and it is not very big, and they had a lot of questions about, are all the employees going to have background checks, how often does it have to be open to the public, how many people in the public will be there at different times. I just would very much doubt that they're going to be interested in running us, and even if they did, it's not really a big enough space to either hold our office or another office, so we'll find out what the requirements are, but I just don't see that being a very particular, very helpful space.
They
It's
were
not-
secure on hours and things
Yeah.
like that. So Jan staff is, you know, and they were really good. It becomes an issue. Quite frankly, I asked them about the post office, and they said that the post office extended their contract until October, so they won't know until then. Post office is going to stay afloat. Then they said, if they even did move out, at that time, we would start discussions about whether they're going to relinquish that property. We've been several years and trying to talk about this thing.
I thought it would make nice county attorney, new pioneer co-op combo. The other issue in that general area is once the university buildings are rebuilt, some space might open up in the area, but I don't know the timeline. I think it's multiple years away.
We did check out to just see who owned buildings that are just directly to the
gain about one large courtroom, some judge space, or two small courtrooms. I mean, it's not as much space as you think because they are pretty much shoehorned in where they are. So even moving them out, it doesn't change a lot, but it's possible. One thing I know about facilities is about every other week I get contacted by somebody who they build jails and courthouses and then lease them back to counties. And everybody wants to come and tell you their story and how it's a great thing. And what I know is that that would end up costing the county a lot more money because they're not doing that out of their goodness and their heart. They're making money. So the other thing is we just wouldn't have the money to pay that because when you build a building, we're able to bond. When you lease a building, we have to do it out of our general basic, and our general basic has, we're at the cap, we have been for a long time, and the legislature is tying our hands even more about how we shift money around and grow. So even if you could figure out a way to lease back space, and if you were willing to pay out the nose to do that, we just wouldn't be able to build it into our budget. I mean, someone other than me would have to figure out how to do it because I don't see any way to do that. So I have been contacted by these people pretty regularly over the last couple of years, and I just ignore them because I've never seen a financial advantage to the county to do something like
I've
that.
got contacted several times. When they do that, they want you to sign the property over to them, and you end up buying it back from them.
At some astronomical interest rate. Anything else on facilities? Okay. Funding and grants. Only thing I have to report is while the needs at the courthouse and the sheriff's office are very important, the county has a lot of other needs. And the county is growing fairly substantially, and we had a major fire. And so we are without a secondary roads maintenance shed, and we are in the process of going out to rebuild that facility to meet the needs of the county for the next 50 years. We can't build a new courthouse or jail for the amount of money we have, nor the amount of money we're allowed to bond. So in the meantime, we have no choice but to go ahead with the other needs of the county. And so for the last 18 months or so, the other needs of the county have been put on hold, but they're no longer able to be put on hold. We have other buildings that are old and other buildings that need repairs, and we will be working on those. So I think we feel we have no choice to do that, and so you will see that coming forward, that we are working on a secondary roads facility. We will continue to talk about the ambulance medical examiner, and we will be doing repairs on various buildings, some of which are new roofs, some of which are new heating and air conditioning systems. And so while the courthouse and jail are still there, the rest of the county also needs funding. And as far as funding, just one thing to point out about the new legislation that passed the governor's sign, we will immediately lose funding in anything, the tax package.
Next week, Hiawatha. We'll sign it.
He's going to sign it next week in Hiawatha. So if you want to go boycott. Some of that money has been promised to be backfilled to us. That will only happen for the next couple of years. I have not known the legislature to ever keep their word on that. So if they do, I will lose the bet with whoever wants to bet me. So part of their package is backfilling, and I think the legislators don't actually know what they voted for, because one of them had an editorial where he said the only thing they did was limit the rate of increase of the growth of county budgets. Okay, well, that was only one piece of the deal. So that's number one, they're limiting our growth. And number two, they're rolling back apartments and multi-unit dwellings, all apartments, all nursing, assisted living, all mobile homes. We're not backfilled on that, and they have a telecom, which goes into immediate effect, and we're not backfilled on that. And then they have a cap on the rate of our growth, and that will resolve in immediate, meaning next fiscal year after this one, rate of our ability to capture basically cost of living adjustments in our tax. And also, they have over 2 years rolled back commercial and industrial property tax 10%, which they will be backfilling at least for year one. The other item was a tax credit, which if they don't fund it, won't happen. So we didn't have very many concerns about that. We anticipate to have about $600,000 less in FY15 than we have in 14. We'll always, you can't take that to the bank because it's all based on assessments and rollbacks and a rate of growth. But it is not true that the legislature is backfilling local government. That's just 100% not true. They're only backfilling on part of it. So we will have less new revenue next year than this past year, and so will every city. Iowa City is dramatically impacted because they have a lot more apartments. So, yeah, that's a good point. We fully anticipate the cities will respond by TIFing more, tax increment financing more. So their response to the legislature will just be to take more money away from county government by TIFing more. So I think we'll see that also. Any questions about commercial property tax? There was just one more piece of legislation that had to do with bonding. I understand it passed Indy. I'm not clear that the governor signed it, but it was a slight change in how we can bond for projects. It used to be we could only bond 1.2 million, and the project could only be 1.2 million. Now, different counties have been able to maneuver slightly around that with bond council. But now they've clarified that we could put other money in if the governor signed it and still bond 1.2 million. But that's why doing smaller projects is possible, doing large projects is not. And so you will likely see the county do a number of small projects because we are able to do that. And even when we have cash, bonding is a more favorable route for us to go under the current circumstances, because we access nearly $1 billion of TIF properties. So we lower the impact on all property owners by bringing in the TIF districts and making them pay into it. So those are the two changes in the legislature that I just wanted you to be aware of that would affect any funding of courts and sheriff's office.